Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. The Thursday poll question. The Thursday poll question at Smerconish.com. I played with a number of different things. I was going to ask, has Israel gone too far in Gaza? I was going to ask whether the 4-day work week is really here to stay. I was going to ask whether we should follow the Brits and allow 16-year-olds to vote. But in the end, it had to be Epstein. There's just too much news on the Epstein front. Those others are poll questions, I'm sure, that we'll deal with soon. But instead, I'm asking this on this Thursday regarding President Trump's handling of the Epstein files. Which is more of a political threat to him? His response or the contents of the documents? Your choices: response or contents? Response or contents? First, thank you to my friends at Parks Casino in Shippensburg, located in central Pennsylvania off exit 29 of Route 81. That's 45 minutes from the state capitol in Harrisburg. Parks Casino is my casino of choice. So close to Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia, the nearby Pennsylvania towns of Chambersburg, Carlisle, and Greencastle. Parks Casino, they celebrate military veterans every Monday. That's a good thing. Show your military veteran ID and you'll get a free hot dog lunch with chips and a soda. And then every Tuesday, it's the Parks Casino 50% golden discount. Take my recommendation. Check out all the action, all the entertainment, the excitement that they've got to offer. Parks Casino in Shippensburg is 100% smoke-free. They've got 500 state-of-the-art slot machines, 48 live dealer electronic table games featuring blackjack and roulette. All that heat that was in the Midwest is going to hit the Northeast tomorrow, Friday. So maybe Friday is a good day to get out of the heat, inside, do some mingling at Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Visit Parks Casino, P-A-R-X, casino.com. You've got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yesterday, not too much interest in my Hunter Biden question. Based on whatever you've read or watched of Hunter Biden's interviews this week, do you mostly agree with him? 57.28% said, no, I do not. 42.72% said yes. Why do I say not too much interest? Because I remember the days when I'd have given my left arm for 25,349 people voting, but only 25,000 and change voted on that poll question yesterday. Today, regarding President Trump's handling of the Epstein files, which is more of a political threat to him? Is it the contents of those Epstein files, whatever that might mean, means different things to different people, I can tell you, or is it the president's response? And what I'm really asking, but I wanted to be careful, I'm really asking the old cover up or the crime. Only in this case, there's no criminal wrongdoing that is being alleged about President Trump. I want to make that crystal clear, because if there were, I would have simply asked the question, is it going to be the cover-up or the crime? Where there's no allegation of crime, it's the same principle. Because I don't get it. I do not get the president's handling of this. He's sure as hell acting like there's something that he's really worried about, being in the so-called Epstein files. I'll tell you something else. And I don't remember this being the case, other than maybe relative to the U.S. strike on Iran recently. I don't remember a day where I was putting together, and it's not a slow news cycle, but I don't remember a day where I was putting together the 20 aggregated links for the Smerconish.com daily newsletter, and nearly half of them are all on this subject. It's a full-blown controversy. Would I say scandal? I'm not sure, but it's big. It's big, and all of the efforts that the president has made to try and take our attention elsewhere, to distract us, have been unsuccessful. And it's going to keep going. I mean, it's going to keep going because there are things transpiring today on the Epstein front. My lead story: Bondi faces calls to testify. AG Pam Bondi, under mounting Democratic pressure to testify before Congress, because of the report that surfaced yesterday that Trump's name is in the files. And of course, that reporting came from the Wall Street Journal. That is my second story at Smerconish.com. My third story is from ABC News, and it's about how a federal judge in Florida has ruled that the grand jury records, the investigations into Epstein that were requested by Bondi, will remain sealed. And then there's my fourth story. I mean, they're all different. They're all different. Fourth story is about how the House Oversight Committee has now subpoenaed records pertaining to the whole Epstein probe. And then I've also got a piece from Politico about the state of mind of the president and how he's PO'd. Furious is what they said. There's a veteran Epstein reporter named Barry Levine who wrote an essay for the New York Times, The 9 Epstein Questions That Need Answers. They are worthy, those questions, and so too his piece. From Mediaite, a resurfaced video deposition from 2010 of Jeffrey Epstein being asked if he ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of underage girls, and he takes the fifth. And then there's a New York Post piece that I also have in the newsletter today, talking about how Ghislaine Maxwell is actively preparing herself to present what her brother Ian Maxwell describes as material new evidence in the case. And today, Todd Blanche, the number 2 man in the Justice Department, who was President Trump's attorney, is going to visit Maxwell in prison in Florida. And then finally, and I put this in the category of related, I've got an essay published by Fox News, Ned Price, arguing that Tulsi Gabbard is playing a dangerous distraction game. So I think that's 9 of 20 links in today's newsletter are all about the updates relative to the Epstein case. The most important among them is the fact that the Wall Street Journal broke this story yesterday. The Journal broke this story yesterday that Trump's name appears in the files. How could his name not appear in the files? Frankly, when you think about it. Here's what they report in the lead. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. Many other high-profile figures were also named. Trump was told being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. He spent so much time in Epstein's company that, of course, if someone goes out and they conduct an interview, maybe you're interviewing a witness, maybe it's a potential victim. Were you with Mr. Epstein in setting A? Yes, I was. Who else was there? Well, so-and-so was there, so-and-so was there, so-and-so was there. It doesn't mean they engaged in wrongful conduct, but of course his name was going to be in those files. What's Trump's problem, at least as far as we know now? That he's denied. That he was told by Pam Bondi that his name was in. So it just looks bad. It looked, what's he got to hide? In the same way as that birthday greeting that also the Wall Street Journal broke last Thursday, a week ago today. And isn't it curious that it's the Wall Street Journal breaking all these stories? Given Rupert Murdoch and given the way that Fox News, at least in prime time, is so protective of Trump. Then there's the Barry Levine piece in the New York Times. He's the author of a book called The Spider, Inside the Criminal Web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So he knows a little bit something about the subject. Among the 9 questions that he thinks need answers, number 3, are there references to Mr. Trump in the files that add to our knowledge of his relationship with Epstein? I like the way that he worded that. Because, of course, Trump's name is in those files, but in a way that adds to our knowledge of the relationship. And then something else, another of his questions pertain to former President Clinton. And I know that we've been told that he flew on Epstein's plane, and so too did Trump. But Clinton flew on that private jet 26 times. 26 times between 2002 and 2003. Why would he need to use that plane? I mean, I'm sure for speaking gigs or whatever he was doing, it was just so damn easy. Number 7, what did investigators find in Epstein's safe, his computers, and his other property? They recovered 40 computer and electronic devices, 26 storage drives, 70 CDs, and 6 recording devices, 60 pieces of physical evidence, including photos, travel logs, and employee logs. Question number 8, what do the videos show? Apparently 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex material and other pornography. And then the Fox News opinion from Ned Price, a former senior Biden administration official who served as deputy to the U.S. ambassador of the United Nations, relative to Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, suddenly Gabbard shows up and wants to blame Obama for quote unquote Russiagate and talk about Hillary again. The only thing I haven't heard recently that I expect to hear soon is Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. But none of it has been able to throw people off their interest in Epstein, and that includes a lot of the MAGA base. But this person, Ned Price, relative to what Tulsi Gabbard is saying recently, hers is an effort to rewrite history, overturning established facts with conspiratorial fiction. Look, Lanny Davis is going to be on the program today. Lanny, who wrote Truth to Tell It Early, Tell It All, Tell It Yourself. Friend of Bill and Hillary, crisis manager, friend of the program, I will say. Because, and I think Lanny and I see eye to eye on this based on some texts that we've exchanged with one another. But what if President Trump had approached this differently? What if President Trump had said, Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, yeah, I knew Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was an acquaintance of mine, one of many. Give the old line about, how could you have your picture taken with so-and-so? He's a mobster. I have my picture taken with thousands of people. It's the nature of what I do. I knew him in New York City. Yeah, I spent some time with Jeffrey Epstein. I had no idea what a bad guy he was. And when I figured out what a bad guy he was, I ended the relationship. But no, I'm not surprised that there are pictures of me with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not surprised that my name would be associated with his and the sheer nature of an investigative file. It doesn't mean that I was involved in any of his escapades, because I can tell you I wasn't. Mr. President, did you send him a birthday greeting, 20 years ago? I don't remember sending him a birthday greeting, but it's entirely possible. I mean, I've always been a letter writer. And I've always tried to support charitable work and my friends. And if somebody asked me to do something, and if I could do, I would do it. But again, we had a falling out years ago. The guy was a freeloader at Mar-a-Lago. I heard that he hit on the masseuse, and I wanted nothing further to do with him. And I've never been involved in any of the type of behavior. It's disgusting. Instead of, nope, Pam Bondi didn't tell, nope, I didn't send a birthday. I'm going to sue Rupert. Which gets me back to the poll question. I just think that he's putting himself, the president, in a bad position by all the deny. I get it. That's the Roy Cohn playbook. It served him well. But it sure seems like his response is making this a hell of a lot worse. And that's why today's poll question at Smerconish.com asks, regarding President Trump's handling of the Epstein files, which is more of a political threat? Is it his handling of this, which I think has been terrible, or the contents of the documents? I mean, if the contents of the documents are not incriminating, if his name's in there in the way that I've speculated, is that a big deal? Only if he continues to say that he's not in the files, and that he wasn't told he was in the files, and that he didn't send the birthday greeting. By the way, I'm mindful of something else, and that is that last Saturday on CNN, I asked whether we ever see the alleged Trump birthday greeting to Epstein. Remember, he denies it. It's fake, and he filed the lawsuit. And one of the choices was that one choice was we'll never see it. And as I recall, 52% said we'll never see it. But one of the choices was, because your options were then we'll see it within a week, within a month, longer than a month. One of the choices being within a week. Does that clock run out tomorrow, Friday, or does it run out Saturday? I'm asking because I was in that category. I don't think I'm winning that wager. But last Saturday on TV, that was the poll question. And I said, will we see it within a week? And I was in the category. There were only like 10 or 15% of us who said we'd see it within a week. But the reporting has been fast and furious on Epstein. The story is not going away. Go vote at Smerconish.com on today's poll question, which is, mimicking the old, the cover up or the crime. Again, no allegation here of any criminal activity by Trump, but that's what I'm saying. It's the Watergate thing. It's the Watergate thing. If Nixon had cut them all loose and said, I didn't know anything about it, he'd have kept his job. Thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe, and set yourself up for notifications. Thank you.